PR Connections Radio presents. This episode of the PR Connections podcast is brought to you by Classy Communications PR and Advertising. Classy Communications provides public relations and marketing solutions for businesses, professionals, and nonprofit organizations. They can deliver the true meaning of your business with press releases, social media marketing, web development, email marketing, book publishing, and much more. Wherever your potential clients are, they can help you connect with them. Visit classycommunications.net to learn more about their suite of services that can help your business stand out from the rest. Classy Communications is your solution for business success.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the PR Connections Radio Show at prconnectionsradio.com, the voice of new media. My name is Guy Dawson, and I am your host. And I have got a repeat visitor to the PR Connections Show. Many of you might remember we had Mr. Todd Haley, the grandson of the legendary writer Alex Haley, on a podcast a couple of months ago. And he just shared so much great information, had so much passion for the topic of roots and his grandfather's contributions. And I just had to have Todd come back because I got so much great feedback from all of you out there about the information that he provided. And Mr. Todd Haley, welcome back to the PR Connections Radio Show.
How you doing? Great to be back again. Yes.
Yeah. And again, Todd, I know you're not a person that does a lot of these types of interviews, and I always, really appreciate.
Oh, no, it's not a problem.
To come online, and, we're all different. And you are exclusive. I guess I can feel like sort of there's some exclusivity here, right, Todd?
Yeah, because I don't very seldom. The other brother does this more than anything. I'm the one that kind of sits in the shadows that will come out if I have to.
Yeah. Well, since our last interview, Todd, there has been a monumental event that has happened recently. On August the 17th, we celebrated the 50-year anniversary of the publication of Roots.
Oh, yes.
And it's just a phenomenal. I just can't believe it. Todd, I was around in 1976. I was a little boy. I was 6 years old when Roots came out.
Wow.
But it's just unbelievable how I have such a clear memory, Todd, of sitting in my house in South Central Los Angeles as a 6-year-old. And the whole world was watching Roots. I mean, it was a different time. We didn't have cable. We only had channels, and everybody was watching Roots. And so here I was, a little boy. My parents said, "You have got to watch this." And for 8 nights, I literally sat there with
Set to the tube. Wow.
And that was how the whole world was, Todd.
Oh, yeah. I've heard it at the time. I mean, of course, now we got so many other platforms you could turn to and stuff. But at the time, I know there was only so many channels. So, of course, everybody tuned in to see my family's legacy, one half of my family's legacy, be brought out for the whole world to see. And it's just crazy when I think about it. Roots, my grandfather would say that he had a saying that it was faction where it was fiction. So he would say it was faction that he got a lot of his research from, to be able to, search to basically find his roots or find our family's story all the way from tracing it to the forms of Africa. But mostly I try to tell a lot of people that if it wasn't for the griots and passed down from generation to generation, that's what really brought Roots to the world to see. The course, his knowledge of being able to look things up was definitely phenomenal, and he had a team of people that helped him with that. But given that the story was passed down from our relatives and from my grandmothers, my great grandmothers, from the time from Kizzy to Chicken George to Tom the blacksmith, every time it got passed down, and our story continued to be told from family member to family member. And so that's how I think Roots kind of defined the generation right there. So, yeah.
Yeah, it absolutely did, Todd. And it gave us so much pride in Black heritage.
Yes.
Because of just the fact that Alex, the picture that Alex painted of the whole experience. I mean, as you know, there was a lot of really gruesome things in Roots, and
Oh yeah, the middle passage was horrible. But I want to say this too. A lot of people say, okay, Roots, it was a slave movie. It wasn't a slave movie. It wasn't a slave. It wasn't us this for us to that we were, defining slavery, or that was our defining moment of our Black history. No, it showed that before slavery, we came from great villages. We came from great people. We were sold into bondage, and yes, maybe some of our own African people did sell some of us into slavery, but they didn't know that it was going to be as worse as it was. They didn't have any idea that we would be put through so much, our own Holocaust that should never be forgot about. Because I'm not taking anything away from the Jewish people, but we should never forget what our Holocaust was. Because last time I remember, like I said, slavery, it didn't end just in 1860 or 1865 or so, when the Emancipation Proclamation was put into, and then the 13th Amendment was passed. Slavery continued on through Jim Crow and so forth. So it's something that we should never be able to forget. And this new generation should understand that it's going to be upon them to continue this, because they want to whitewash it away. Like, we should get over it now. Like, no, we're never going to get over it, because we were not due our just rights, because our ancestors built this country. They picked cotton, tobacco, sugar cane, anything that of the time, especially cotton, that brought in revenue. And none of us, we're like one of the most, our our race right now is deteriorating in so many ways that we just don't understand that. That's why we're second class to some of our, I guess you could say, the other race, which is, the Caucasian race. And I'm not racist or nothing, but they had a leg up because they got stuff passed down to them from generation to generation. We didn't get that. Our ancestors worked for free for almost close to 500 or 600 years of free labor, and none of we received nothing from that. So it's like they received all the benefits from free labor from workers that never got anything for it. And then they even tried to make them sharecropping after it was over with. I mean, after slavery had got obliterated, they still made sharecroppers of us. So, I still think to this day that, even though, yes, slavery is over for the most part, but still, they're still getting free labor from us each day, even with the prison system. So it continues on, as they say.
And the depictions in the movie, Todd, again, it opened up so many people's eyes. America had never really, even in the history books in school, like I said, I was very young at that time, but I know my parents were older and they had gone through the educational system in America.
Of course.
And they made very little mention of slavery.
They don't even mention it now at all. They don't even want to mention it. They're trying to take it out of the actual new history books, where they don't want they don't even want this generation to think that slavery was even that bad.
Right. And that's why they talk, Todd, you were mentioning a second ago about some of the challenges that we're having in modern society, even though slavery has been abolished. I mean, like you mentioned, there's Jim Crow, there's been all kinds of other approaches to slavery that have been used beyond, but the legacy of what slavery represented was really clearly pictured on the big screen or on the small screen for the very first time.
Yes.
Roots. This was the beginning of people starting to get an understanding, because again, like you mentioned, they haven't received a lot of education about slavery. No one did, from the history books. And like you said, it's interesting. It's like we're almost reversing back to the conditions before Roots actually told a story.
You see that on another thing. I know you have all these platforms now, streaming services. I know cable is not as important as it was before because you don't even actually have to have it anymore. As long as you have internet, you can get an app and you can pretty much play whatever you want. But I think I would really think, and I would actually love that if some of the channels, for instance, I know BET is not owned by our brothers and sisters anymore. I know Viacom owns it and so forth like that. But if a certain, I wish that Roots could play again. And I know A&E History did over. We allowed them to do the new version of Roots, which it wasn't accepted as much as the older version for the miniseries. But I would say, if so, I would love to see either one, especially if it was the original, to be played each and every Black History Month, just so some of the younger generation, because a lot of them have not seen Roots. A lot of them have not read Roots. Of course, I mean, this is a different generation. They probably won't read it anyway. But at least if it were on the school curriculum for them to have to maybe read it and so forth, especially in maybe some of the colleges and so forth, because I know a lot of curriculums, schools definitely have them read my other grandfather's book, the autobiography of Malcolm X, of course. But I think Roots should be back into the curriculum, especially for college, where it has to be read um, for that semester. I think that would actually, or either for that matter, the miniseries, watching the original miniseries, or if they have to watch the newer version, which I'm not, I wasn't the greatest fan of the newer version, but if they had to watch the newer version, it could still mean the same thing, though. At least they're actually getting to see Roots for the first time. That's just how I look at it.
And the subtitle for the movie, Todd, is the saga, a saga of an American family when it comes to Roots. And of
Yes.
course, it was a story that told it was your family story. But growing up as a Haley, of course, Alex being your grandfather and all your other relatives, I know that the storytelling aspect is something that was really, he depicted it in the movie, but you being an actual Haley, maybe you could speak to what that's been like all these years with these stories being passed along within your own family. And of course, you guys are really famous for doing this, but internally, what is it like being a Haley and hearing all these different stories that are just so important?
Well, I mean, it definitely makes you look at things differently. I love that I actually know where my father's side of the family, because I do depict, and I love both of my father's side and my mother's side, and I feel blessed to know that I know both sides. But given the fact that I was a Haley and knew it exactly where my ancestors came from, and so forth like that. It was a good feeling to know that. And it's also been, like I said, I touch on both issues. It was also some controversy too, where I've had to speak about, the accusations that came from certain things, and so forth like that, that I addressed on some blogs and so forth, that they tried to depict it about my grandfather. And I let them know that, stories are there's millions of stories out here, but if the truth were to be told, a lot of people would be like, okay, so that's exactly why that happened, or why he did that, because he just, was at the time, was a very busy person, and he tried to do a lot of stuff that, in his short lifetime, that, took up a lot of his life and so forth like that. So it's a lot, when you're thinking about everything that came from being, that comes from being a Haley and so forth like that. And it is a very it's a touching matter in our family, and it's something that we try to depict it and pass on to each generation, at least so they can know my grandfather, who our grandfather was, or their uncle, or their um or their cousin, whatever, as far as a Haley or a Murray or something like that, that what the story of our family is, or what Alex tried to depict it and show who our family was. So yeah.
And you touched on the autobiography of Malcolm X, Todd, of course, which was the first book that really brought your grandfather into the mainstream. I know he also was a pretty prominent writer in Reader's Digest and Playboy
Playboy.
magazine. I mean, he was really a heavy journalist.
Oh yes,
And
his Playboy interviews actually made a book. So the interviews, it's Lord, it's all the interviews are actually in a book and so forth like that. So it's something that that we've definitely put out there. That, excuse me, it's actually out there right now, and we're actually working to possibly get them re-put out there for the world to see. For my grandfather and stuff.
yeah, the autobiography of Malcolm X for me, Todd, was it was a real eye opener on so many different levels. I mean, I had grown up and my father talked about how relevant Malcolm X was. Of course,
Oh yes.
he got assassinated before I was born. And the way that I was able to learn a lot about him was by reading the autobiography of Malcolm X. And it was just so interesting that I remember watching an interview that your grandfather did where he talked about the fact that Malcolm told him, I'm not going to ever live to be able to actually read this.
He
And
told him that too.
ironic that he was assassinated not many days after that.
He actually, and then also too, my father has told me that the one of the talks that they had before he passed on, he told him that he was not going to be able to be there to see the book come out for the world. He also told him that he knew the name of the assassins that were going to kill him. He knew who they were. He knew that they were coming for him. He knew the name. He actually told him the names of the assassins. He said I'm sorry. He told him he knew the names of the people that were going to assassinate him. He didn't never. I believe that he never told. I don't. Like I said, I don't know the whole conversation, but I remember my father telling me that Malcolm told your grandfather that he knew the names of the assassins that were going to take him out, and he also told him that you know he really wanted to make sure that that book came out because there was a lot in there. But it was a lot that came with that book, though. Like, at first, Grove Street, who was the publisher, they had to change a lot of stuff because the actual manuscript that we do have some copies of, and we're actually working to get that back in full for us, has some radical chapters that did not get published for the world to see. And I know one of them is it's the NOI chapter about the Nation of Islam in there. Another one is a chapter he called about it's called the Negro. And another one was a chapter that he touched upon the Black Society. So these are all chapters that Grove Street thought was too radical for the world to actually read upon. So those are the chapters that, as some people like to say, the lost chapters of the autobiography. It's not that they were lost chapters, they were too radical for the world to actually read. So we're working, hopefully, we're going to try to see about a documentary on that, where we can touch upon the chapters and actually finally let the world hear the stuff that was too at the time too yeah it was just too much for society to actually grasp what Malcolm was talking about with my grandfather though.
And he had made a name for himself through the autobiography of Malcolm X. And of course, this publication of Roots was a long time in the making.
Oh yes.
Like you mentioned, Todd, he had to do a lot of research. He spent a lot of time over in Africa and in other countries preparing to be able to bring this epic book to the world.
Yes.
What do you think kept him going? I mean, he had a lot of knowing about his background. I know you know, of course, a lot about his background. I know he hit a lot of walls in the pursuit of bringing this to the world. Can you speak to that?
Well, the main thing I know that kept him focused, he was really trying to prove to himself. And I remember my father would tell us that, your grandfather really wanted to prove to himself that he could do it, that he spent a lot of time away from family, I mean, because even though he was my grandfather, Bill um is a lot older than me, or my sister Tara, and he he actually got to be around granddad more than we were children, but I do remember going to the farm. I do remember being around him to a certain degree, and I remember he did send me some stuff a couple of times for my birthday. I remember a lot, like I said, I was a kid, and when he passed away I was only 13 at the time, going on 14. But I think a lot of stuff that really drove him was the fact that he really wanted to make his mark as a writer, and he really wanted the world to see and take him seriously, because when you start from the Coast Guard to not finishing school to you have two brothers. One is a successful architect. The other one is a prominent lawyer. And so forth. And they followed the form of my great grandfather Simon. That was into um agriculture more than anything. As far as the study of farm life and stuff. But Simon, of course, my grandfather's father was very big on education, and so forth. And Alex kind of strayed the other way. He kind of took it upon himself to do things his way. So he had a lot to prove to the family and to himself that he could make it. And he accomplished something that none of us to this day, it's like I'd have to give it to him, through everything he went through and all the trials and tribulations, he was able to do that.
Yeah, he stuck with it, and he was able to develop roots. And of course, then they had the sequel, The Next Generation, that
And
came
he's
after
got some other books too. A lot of people seem to forget Mama Floral's Family was his. We have the Black Rose, and also now the the Netflix story, we kind of believe that they did find some of the his work, or some of his I guess you could say some of his research on her, the Madam CJ Walker story. That was going to be his next book too, that he had already had. He has a lot of research on her. He did a lot, and that was going to be his next book before Queen came out.
Yes, and of course, Queen ended up being a real success. I believe, it was a TV movie, and
Yeah,
I
it
really
made it became a miniseries. It was a three night miniseries and so forth. It wasn't I guess you could say it wasn't celebrated as much as Roots or Malcolm X and so forth like that, because before he didn't get a chance to finish the book. David Stevens, he passed away though. David Stevens finished that for him, because my grandfather passed away before he could finish Queen.
Yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed that. Halle Berry, Danny Glover. I mean, I thought
Yes.
it was a fantastic miniseries. There was back in those days, Todd. The '90s, the '80s, the '70s. There was just a certain approach to developing stories that
Oh
I
yes.
kind of miss. Right? I mean, I
Yeah.
know life changes, things never stay the same, but I love the theatrical aspect of Roots and of the Next Generation and of Queen. It was just wonderful to see just such great black cinema.
Oh yes.
There was so much focus, right, on black culture, African culture. It was just such a shift and just a beautiful thing. And I think that with us being in this 50-year anniversary that we're going to be celebrating over the course of these next couple of years, maybe you could speak to what the meaning is of this for you over between now and, of course, the mini series in 2027. Early 2027 is when the miniseries came out, and we're literally going to be celebrating this over the next couple of years. What are some of your thoughts about this celebration that we're going to be having?
I mean, it's a good thing. It's 50 years is a lot. That's a lot right there. So, it's a good thing. It's hopefully, we can, excuse me, we can touch bases with some of the platforms to push it out a little bit more, to speak on it. 50 years of the miniseries, 50 years. Well, this would be 50 years of the book right here, but it's not saying that we can't still push the envelope to get a 50th anniversary book, a new book published for the masses to read and see and so forth like that, because a lot of people are looking to, they know that it's 50 years. A lot of people have mentioned that to myself, to my brother, to, some of my cousins and stuff, and told them, it's 50 years. They would love to see a 50th anniversary book, to see a new book, something that can, a new introductory, um, something, where they can actually have as a collector's copy to show that they have something of memorabilia for that right there, because actually in essence of that, there's no right now, you couldn't even get a printed copy of Roots, a newer version, if you tried to right now, because there's no publication for it right now. So we're actually trying to change that and make it so there will be one, so people can, just go to their local bookstore or order it online and so forth.
And earlier, Todd, you had touched on the relevance of roots in terms of modern society, and how that there are themes in that story that are so important and valuable, and yet there. It seems like with the younger generations, there seems to be a lot of disconnection with
Yeah.
the story that your grandfather was trying to tell, and why he told it, and why he wanted Black people in particular. Although, of course, this story was embraced by all cultures. I mean, I've had conversations with people from Fiji
Mm,
who related to the story because they used to have a slave trade in Fiji.
of
So it was
course.
definitely a worldwide story, but specific to Black people in America, or Black people in enslaved countries around the world. These themes are a lot of there's a lot of disconnection with people when it comes to
Hmm.
themes related to and the impact of slavery. Maybe you could speak to why you think that is in modern society, and what can we do to not live in slavery. Obviously, we're not living in the environment of slavery, but it's a part of history. Maybe you'd like to speak to what are your thoughts about all of this?
Well, given that I'm from, I guess you could say, Generation Z, I would say that it's something that we continue to have to try to not forget. It's something that has to be. I could say that this new generation that is in the forefront now, it's not the baby boomer generation. It's not even my generation where I'm from. I guess you not. I guess maybe I'm not Generation Z. I'm the millennial generation, and I
Mhm.
would say that for mine, we were the right front of when the internet really broke in heavy, and right when the, I guess you could say, technology kind of has taken over everything that we could think of. Everything is so easier for us now than it is, in the 90s or the 80s or even for the 60s or 70s. And so, with that being stated, that I think that this generation is more of a hands on seeing something. I would love to see them read it more, but I'm a realist and I think that they would rather see it than read it. That's just my opinion. I think that them seeing the new miniseries, I think that's, see, A&E, when they did the miniseries over, they tried to do it to a point where you had it be more, I guess you could say, tried to make it more extravagant and more focus on the history of it, because they changed a lot of the story around. And they even added in some people that, who would have thought, in the Roots, they added in the miniseries, they put Ti in it. That was to try to get some of the younger people to look at it. They use a lot of people that some people knew who these people were in the miniseries, and they used some pretty decent names of actors in there and so forth. It's just that the star actors that they used that had the main parts, they weren't really known. But then if you look at the actors that were in it that took off after that, they done pretty good. You,
Absolutely.
you
The
you had
legacy of
the
Roots. Hmm.
yeah, they've done pretty. You had the God, what's his name? He played the Chicken George on the new version. He was he has now become a prominent actor in Hollywood. But then you had Malachi who played Kunta Kinte. He didn't really take off too much after that. When LeVar did the role, he went to his career just boosted after that. From Reading Rainbow to Star Trek to
Hmm.
multiple different movies and stuff. And yeah, but
Yeah.
it just didn't do the same as it did for Malachi, who had one of the if not the biggest role in the actual new miniseries.
For a lot of people in the original movie too, Todd, I mean, their careers just exploded as a result
Yes,
because of how many people watched it, and you had pretty much every major black actor or actress in
at the
Hollywood
time was in it. Yes,
appeared in Roots back then, and for
yes.
all of their careers, to be on that big of a stage for those 8 nights did amazing things. So yes, you're right, Todd. These movies, not only your grandfather writing the book, and then of course it being turned into the miniseries, and then all the different movies that have come along as a result of the
Oh yes,
original,
at the
there
roots.
are a
Yes.
lot of careers that have been really enhanced by the fact that your grandfather made that choice and decided that he would study his history and bring it to television and in the book.
I would say, I tell a lot of people, if it wasn't for Roots, we probably would not have got 12 Years a Slave. We wouldn't have got Amistad and so forth. Roots opened up the door for, and I'm not going to say the slave movies, but for the actual showing of what happened with the Middle Passage and what happened as far as the African slave trade.
Well, Todd, again, I just appreciate our friendship, and I have the privilege of being the president of the Alex Haley Roots Legacy Foundation
Oh,
out here in
yes.
Las Vegas. And so, representing your grandfather, as you know, is just such an honor for me. And working with you and your brother, we're about to
Oh,
have
we
a huge
appreciate it. We
celebration
definitely.
here in Las Vegas on October the 8th. And of
I will be
2026.
there. I won't be able to be there, but I will be there in spirit, and I definitely appreciate everything that you have done, and Bill appreciates it. And I think given that, I think 2027 is should be a pretty good year for what we're trying to get together. Of course, I'm sure the trying to get a 50th anniversary book done, and the other thing we're also trying to see, given that A&E, they did do you. I'm sure A&E History did, of course, Roots. They did the miniseries, but they didn't do the Next Generation. So that's something that we were thinking about too, that could possibly be looked at. And instead of just stopping at Alex this time, continuing it on and showing, you know, um, of course, showing what happened after his the book came out. The book making it as big as it was. And of course, you have to touch on the other things that weren't as positive as that, the situation he had with the courts and stuff. And then of course, we were looking at focusing on also too when my grandfather passed on and everything as well too. So that's where we were looking at maybe a continuation for the next generation that could go into that and show even further in as well for something different. And then also too, we're looking to possibly see if we can get some of his other unpublished books to come out. His last book, Henning, we want to see about trying to bring that to light. His also the Madam C.J. Walker situation as well, and we're also in talks to see about, hopefully, and I got my fingers crossed because this is the main thing that my father wanted before he passed on, Roots, the stage play.
Yeah, absolutely. This is, again, Todd, I really appreciate being able to go on this journey with the Haley family. Being a little boy, I was telling Todd before we came on the air today, I was a little boy back in 1976, living in South Central LA in a little two-bedroom house.
Wow.
And my parents put me in front of the TV at 6 years old and said, "We want you to watch this every night." And I sat there and didn't really understand a lot, but I did learn a lot about
Wow.
slavery. And you know, when you're a little child like that, Todd, you never think that years later that you will be representing such an amazing American, somebody that made such a tremendous contribution to this world as your grandfather, and that you built
Definitely.
these friendships up with his grandchildren. In my wildest dreams, I never would have even imagined that at 6 years old, sitting there. And here we are 50 years later. And yeah, like I said, Todd, I really appreciate you and your brother. And I'm really looking forward to all that I know is going to develop as a result of the hard work that we've all invested.
Oh yeah, and hopefully too. You know, when we get I know we've been speaking to them. They want the Gambian consulate over there. I remember you had mentioned that too. We're hopefully working with them to see about retaining and rebranding the Roots Festival, and trying to see about that, where people could still, because I know they do the tours where people do get to go to Jufaray in the Gambia, and they see, you know, where the story came from and stuff. And I know they get tourists every year for that, but it would be good where we can also get involved with that with them, and it would be spectacular to have the festival come back around, and we can talk about that and brand it to where, you know, people can go and see and so forth like that, what the journey was from my grandfather and so forth, and where the village was. And also to work with, because we have relatives over there too in the Jufaray, you know, in Jufaray, in the Gambia and so forth, that are still alive, that are Kente. So, you know, that's something that we've been looking at too, you know, and so forth like that, working in the Gambia with them, because it's lots of ways where this can, you know, continue on, and it could be good for each generation to learn. And it's not just my family, for everybody.
Yes, Roots is a massive platform, Todd. And again, thank you so much for stopping by. And I know I'll be having you back on the air sometime soon, because
Just
we'll
let
have
whenever
things
you
to
need me.
discuss as this celebration goes on. And there are just so many elements, as you mentioned, even over in Gambia. And there are a lot of people who are very interested in
Oh yes.
traveling overseas to celebrate Roots with your family and others over there. And so yes,
That's
thank
why
you.
Bill needs his Bill, as in my brother Bill. He needs his we def he wants a book bad, a new 50th anniversary book. He is pushing anything he can so we can finally get that off, to see about a new version, excuse me, not a new version, a new 50th anniversary edition book for the world.
Yeah, so please be on the lookout, because we know that that's going to come together, Todd.
Oh, it is. Yes. We're
God
going to do everything we
will, and
can.
it is it's so important. We're in this 50-year celebration. It's begun, and
Yes.
for that to be available for the public, I mean, there are just thousands and thousands of people out there.
Oh
Like you
yes.
mentioned, Todd, the mini series and the being able to see it on video or to be able to see it on the big screen is one thing, and but there are a lot of people out there. The book sold 8 million copies, at least 8
Yes.
million copies. So it just lets you know there are thousands and thousands of people out there
Oh
who want
yes.
to put that book in their hand or watch it on a Kindle, right? Read it on a Kindle. It
Yep.
all started with a book. And so, yes, whatever we can do, please be on the lookout. We'll be having more announcements on this network, by the way, as things progress. And during this 50-year celebration, we are sort of the unofficial network of the Roots 50-year celebration. And again, Todd, I'm just so grateful to be going on this journey with you and your brother Bill Haley. And yeah,
We
it's going
definitely
to be
appreciate you.
quite a journey that we're going to be on together.
And we definitely appreciate you. And anything you need from me, let me know. My brother said the same thing. And please, with you all at the event coming up, I'm with you in spirit, and I wish you all the best luck with it too.
Yeah, just to let everyone know, as Todd was just mentioning, we are going to be having a Roots 50 celebration here in fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada on October the 8th from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. And our keynote speaker will be Bill Haley Jr., Todd's brother and the grandson of Alex Haley and Kunta Kinte. By the way, I really enjoyed your brother got a chance to be a part of our family reunion recently, Todd. And that
wow, okay.
A wonderful. He came at the very beginning of our family reunion.
Okay.
About a month ago, maybe a little over a month ago.
Okay.
And we just so appreciated all of our family got together in Seattle and to have, because Roots stimulated this growth that we have seen in family reunions over the last 50 years.
Gotcha.
I mean, all of a sudden after Roots, because of the influence of it in genealogy, just so many things grew out of Roots. But family reunions are really powerful. And we celebrated our 40th family reunion, and we had the absolute privilege of having a Haley, Todd's brother Bill, say words to open up family reunion, and my family just loved it and appreciated it. And
that was really good. I'm glad he did that. That was very peace.
Yeah, so if you're out here celebrating a family reunion, as many of us do celebrate these, just know that, yes, family reunions were around before Roots, but the book and miniseries Roots was very, very significant in making, in the mid-70s, making family reunions relevant again. And so just know that. And we could go on and on. There's so many more stories to talk about, Todd, but please, if you want to come to fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada, October the 8th, 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. at West Charleston Library. We're having an amazing event. It's a lecture hall, which is going to give us lots of seating. It's a free event.
I know it's going to be very packed out there.
Oh, it's going to be packed. We are going to have scenes from Roots. Todd will be speaking.
Bill, you mean Bill will be speaking? Bill.
Not Todd. That's right.
Yeah, I won't be able to make it, but Bill will be there.
Todd speaks on podcasts, but he's not really. Excuse me. Yes, Bill will be speaking. Maybe we could pipe you in, Todd, but you make me think about another way to bring you into this.
If you need me, let me know. Just remind me before that.
We could do it, actually. But for all of you out there, yes, you can go to our website, alexhaley.rootslegacy.com, and you can get information about these upcoming events. We have a host of them across the country, some of which are going to be hosted by Bill and Todd, and others by our foundation. So yes, join us in the celebration of Roots in 2026 and 2027, and you will be getting more updates on our network about all of that. One more time, Todd, thank you so much, brother. I appreciate you stopping by.
And I thank you for having me. And like I said, if you need me anymore, I am always here.
And please tune in to prconnectionsradio.com, the voice of new media, for a host of podcasts. You can always go to our website, prconnectionsradio.com, to watch many of these podcasts. Of course, they are streamed on social media platforms such as YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitch, and LinkedIn. And you can also listen to us on a host of streaming platforms, audio streaming platforms such as Amazon Music, Spotify, and Apple Podcast. Until we have our next show, you take care of yourselves, and we will see you soon.
All right.
PR Connections Radio thanks you for watching this podcast. Check out more episodes of this show and our others at prconnectionsradio.com.